day. It's not very often you get a day like this in December, but must be California. So it looks like I traded in my reindeer for a mule, if you know what I mean. It's got the oh shit knob right here, and I'm drinking a Coors Light because it's a little too early to be drinking a mule. Let's go over here and see who we see by this pond. Looks like a flat fender. Let me check it out. What's happening, George?
What's good, Santa?
Funny to see you here.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I'm glad I ran into you. You know, I was just enjoying the nice California sun in December, and just so happens I see one of my favorite Jeeps sunning itself by the pond.
Sunning itself.
Is that what it's going on?
I guess so, although I'm sitting in the shade.
This is my good friend George Klinger, as they used to call him, and this is his flat fender, and I had nothing to do with building this Jeep, did I, George? Or WFO didn't?
Not too much.
Not too much. So this Jeep probably was one of the first Jeeps I've ever seen on the trail. We just looked over there in your garage, and it looks like it was 1999 you got this Jeep. And I didn't even have one. I was riding with cousin Judd, and I saw you roll in this Jeep, and you were having a good time, and you had just got it on the trail.
That was my first time. In 97, though, I believe.
Was that 97?
It took me a while to finally get on a jamboree.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it was 97. You're right. 99 was the first jamboree. So tell us who you got this Jeep from.
Tim Dempsey.
So Tim Dempsey is, I guess you would call him my mentor, you know. I often call him for expert tutelage, as I like to call it. Tim Dempsey built a lot of flat fenders, and I'm sure you would argue this might be the nicest one he's ever built, right?
To me it is.
And then with all the...
Because he personalized it for himself.
And then see, you always want to buy the builder's vehicle, and if you think you're going to buy my Scrambler, not a chance. Never for sale. But Tim did sell this to you, and he was your good friend.
Yes.
And then from after he sold...
still is.
He is, and after he still is, yeah. Actually, we're probably going to go see him and check out one of his Jeeps. Oh, yeah.
Very cool.
After he sold it to you, you did a lot of work to it, though. You didn't just end it there. Every year something different's going on, right?
Yes. Well, he did a lot of work. I just went along
and drive it and fill the ice chest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not too mechanically inclined.
Okay, so tell us what year it is.
It's 48.
So it's a 48 Willys.
Yes.
This would be a CJ3A flat fender. I noticed that this is the year with air conditioning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so take a look at that.
Never
That's
fails.
AC. So an option in 48. And then this has Tim's signature series big tube roll bar, right?
Well, we used to wrap them.
Yep.
To make them fatter.
So when you first got it, did it have the tape on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Smaller roll cage.
And then you want to hang out, keep in tune with the kids and everything. You got to take that stuff off, huh?
And I wanted to personalize it.
Oh, to get it white.
So it's not Tim's Jeep.
Yeah.
No longer Tim's Jeep, it has to be my Jeep.
Yeah. And George, everything he has is nice, clean, and predominantly white. And we used to call this Jeep the ice cream Jeep. Because you worked for Breyers? Is that who you worked
for?
Dryers, sorry. Dryers, Breyers, same thing.
That's East Coast.
Right, okay. He was an ice cream man, and this was the ice cream Jeep. So tell us, can you tell us what's in this Jeep? I kind of know too. We'll see if you can tell us.
Buick V6.
What kind of Buick V6?
231. Even fire?
Yeah.
Yeah, the 225 was the odd fire, but this came with the 231 that Tim put in.
Oh, forget. Get out. Let's look under the hood. Let's show them. I'm going to go ahead and put my beer right here.
You went fancy today. Glass Coors Light.
Oh, yeah. Glass Coors today. So it's kind of hard to shotgun those. I tried to stick my thumb through there. It didn't work. So you're going to start to see why we came to look at George's Jeep and why I think it is definitely on my top 10. And this is part of the reason, the cleanliness and how everything's put together. So 231 even fire Buick V6. It's so old. Take a look at this right here. This is an ARB air compressor, from the late 90s. Still working. ARBs work great, right, George?
Everything works great.
ARBs front and rear. Optima battery, even fire, but check that out. So that is a 4-barrel Holley carburetor on there, and you have the Offenhauser 4-barrel intake manifold. Did you know that, George?
Thank you.
It's got electronic HEI ignition on the V6. Other than that, just nice and clean. Has the let me see if I know what manifolds you have on this thing. Yep, so that Those exhaust manifolds are Chevy Monza, I believe, had those manifolds. So they're nice and tight, fits the power steering. So power steering, spring over, has the early military grille, which is nice, the small headlights, more airflow. Tell us about the axles. It didn't have these axles when you got it, right, George?
No, I actually switched them out, and your team actually built the axles.
WFO built the axles. It used to have the old full floater 44 rear and a 30 front. So this right now is a Chevy Dana 44 front that's been cut down to 58 inches, has our high steer on it, has our armless knuckles, chromoly axles, inners and outers, got our diff cover on there, ARBs, 488 gears. This thing, if you take a look over here, we wanted to keep the 5 on 5.5, so this has the Ford F-150 5-lug hubs on it, which means you take a Ford wheel hub, put it on a Chevy small bearing spindle with a Chevy caliper mount, and you kind of intertwine the two brands and make the ultimate 5 on 5.5 front axle. One of the changes you made over the last 20 years was you went to Wrangler springs, right?
Yes, they're all the same, all
so
four round.
It went back up to Tim's, and Tim went ahead and put the YJ, they're the 5-leaf reverse eye, 1.5" spring over springs, and shackle reversal. And so with the YJ springs, your whole setup, tell us about the transmission and transfer case. We'll take a look over here.
SM420.
So SM420 is, did you know that's the
Chevy.
lowest granny low transmission?
That's what I was told.
Yeah, so it comes out of a Chevy pickup. And then tell us about your dash there, George.
That's something that Tim and I were just talking about, you know, what we can do different. Instead of leaving it flat, we went ahead and just put it at an angle. He, I believe it was him who decided on how to just set up the gauges.
The gauges are classic. And then you got to have your tunes right there on the dash, right?
The tunes on the dash, no, actually the tunes come from up there,
well,
but the speakers, yes indeed.
Yeah. And then as Tim always does, and which we've been doing as well, so I can't say we're copying him, we're just following his footsteps, is stereo console overhead, CB overhead. You always got to have CB radio, right?
Yes.
That's how us old guys talk on the trail.
But missing my antenna right now, but yes.
And then you got a dome light up there. And I can see over the years you went ahead and added this aluminum roof rack, right?
Yes.
Kind of keeping up with the Joneses, you know?
Well,
little
lighter.
Yep. I always like how Tim did this. Mounted the high lift jack on the floor. It's never in the way. Your feet fit in there perfect. And then check out these shift knobs. Those are the OG WFO aluminum shift knobs for your Dana 18 transfer case. And then we even made the one for the SM420 as well. We used to make those, we don't make them anymore. And I think we even added one right up here. This one loosens up for when you want to flip the window down. And us old guys, we always wheel with the window down, don't we, George?
Yes.
That's
a must.
These young kids don't know how to wheel. They never put the window down.
You should. That's why I got a flat fender.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rolled windshield down and said I need one of these and got rid of my CJ5.
So model 18 transfer case in this, which means you have an offset rear end,
yes.
Which does make it a little tough to build a rear end because the pumpkin has to be off to the right. So one of the last things we did to this is we built you a bigger, better, and stronger Dana 44, and that's because that early worn full floater kit with the locking hubs on the outside was a failure point, right?
Right.
We had nothing but problems. So now, as you see, it's just a flanged 5-lug axle shaft, and what we ended up using was the rear end out of a 2010 JK. So they have big tubes, a stronger ring and pinions design in there, and it's got an ARB 35 spline rear axle shafts, and then the brand new Ford Racing drum brakes on that thing. While you're down here, if you pan up, you can see the gas tank that Tim built, and he kind of pioneered that. These are steel gas tanks with 1/4-inch plate on the bottom. The rest is 1/8 inch. We did that on a lot of other CJs.
22 gallons.
22 gallons in a flat fender is amazing and not taking up any space. So in the back, do you have a back seat that goes in this thing?
I do, but the kids got too big, and so I don't really take any little kids anymore.
So now
but
you just fill it with beer.
Yes.
And then I noticed in the back, no swinging tire rack right here, right? So this is something Tim does on a lot of Jeeps. A tailgate, a swing, it's just a pain in the ass. and hard to make the mechanism work. So what he does is he goes ahead and welds in the whole back of the Jeep. This looks like 1x3, and then braces it right here where the spare tire is going to mount, and then do a full 3/16 diamond plate wrap. So if you take a look at these corners here, diamond plate wrap all the way around, and then the spare tire just mounts solid on the back of the Jeep. And that's never been an issue, right?
No.
No. License plate mounted there, good to go. What size tires are you running, George?
35.
35-inch tires. Is there anything that you would do differently on this Jeep?
Myself, no.
I mean, for me, I'm even comfortable riding in this thing. Of course, Tim went ahead and popped out the floor and moved the seats back so a big guy can sit in there, even though George really needs the seat moved up, maybe like a phone book, if you know what I mean.
Thanks.
You drive it on the road.
Oh yeah.
You drive it up to the trail, you drive it home from the trail, and it's
most of the time, yes.
It's specifically built for rock crawling, right?
Yes.
So granny low is about as low as you can be in this thing, and the motor purrs like a kitten. It's really the perfect flat fender. The frame's been gusseted. Everything has been done great. I mean, even down to this. These rock sliders, these are also something that Tim built that I really like. So this is 1/4-inch diamond plate, broke, and then the step is welded in with another brake. So basically it mimics the back of a factory flat fender, but it's ready to slam on rocks and do everything else. And this is no pretty boy Jeep that doesn't go wheeling, right? Like, how often do you go to the Rubicon and rock crawl this thing?
Oh, only about 3 to 4 times a year.
3 to 4 times a year,
Yeah.
still, every year.
Yes.
And you've been on
Barrett Lake.
as many jamborees as you can be on since '99 till now. We do Barrett Lake quite a bit. I think we got you to Fordyce a couple times, but
Early on.
do you know how long your wheelbase is? It's
Sure.
I think maybe, let's see. I can almost step the wheelbase. So, you know, flat fenders have never really been a long wheelbase type Jeep, but they are billy goats. They do wheel awesome. And this Jeep is one of those Jeeps. Check that out. OG WFO plaque. We made that before the company was even started. In fact, Judd and I cast these in the foundry. I think I made the pattern board while I was going to Chico up at Chico. A couple other things I missed. This is always a cool thing Tim did. He sunk the gas filler into this back corner, so you're not going to smash on any rocks, and it's easy to fill. But while I was standing here, I noticed, yep, Raceline Beadlocks, 17s. That's kind of new school. You only had those for what, 5 years or so?
Yes.
But take a look at this. This is kind of something cool that Tim did. So here's the frame, and it's a modified flat fender frame, but check out that leaf spring hanger. So the rear spring is outboarded on the outside of the frame. So the farther out you get the leaf springs, the more stable the Jeep is. So that's something Tim did on these little skinny frame flat fenders. He always outboarded the rear springs, and that made the Jeep a lot better to drive and a lot more stable. And at the same time, you can see the shock out here. He went ahead and outboarded the shock as well. So I took a lot from all these lessons I learned from him and how we built a bunch of these Jeeps. But when we put this axle in, we went ahead and added our torque arm underneath there. So there's our torque arm on that JK axle, and it goes up to the cross member and with a shackle up at the top. So it's always important to have a torque arm because you're just going to spin these springs up, bend them into an S, and ruin them. The other thing I forgot is, George, what do you got here? The Cadillac column.
Tilt and telescopic.
And telescopic. How about that? Boom. You can bring that, for a little guy like George, you know, he's got to bring that steering wheel right up to him so he can steer. And then even these little knobs here, these billet knobs and the headlight knob on the dash, I remember a while back, I think I actually made those myself on the lathe at the shop, you know, back when I used to go out there and actually do something. And then one other thing is, this is what Tim did. He built the swing pedal assembly, shortened it, modified it, and so see how those pedals come down from the top. So swing pedals on a flat fender, also very nice to have and important. You can't have them going through the floor.
Hey, Santa forgot to mention that Tim actually pushed the floor plate out. It looks like about 3 inches. You can see here on the roll cage, this one's flat as it's mounted, and that one you can see is at an angle. So that gives the driver more room, and for the spring pedals.
Santa can remember everything, you know, he's like 1,000 years old, you know, but maybe that's why big guy like me can actually fit in the driver's seat in this thing.
Well, Tim's bigger than me, so again, he built it for himself, but then he sold it to me.
Well, it's a nice Jeep.
I got the benefit.
Why don't you take me for a ride?
Let's go.
Yeah, there's tons of room in this Jeep.
Although, like the telescopic you said was for little guys like me, but this is also for big guys like you, so you can get in and out.
Touche. You know, my flat fender still sitting in the field at my mom and dad's house.
Y'all buckled in?
Of course I'm buckled in.
All right, ready to go.
All right, let's go. Well, I hope you enjoyed George's Jeep as much as I did and as much as I do every time I see it. But don't forget, we got our 12 rigs of Christmas going every day at 5 o'clock until Christmas. And also, don't forget, everything's 12% off on the website till Christmas. See ya. Let's go, Georgie. Come on, what are you grinding gears?
Should have said Santa.
We'll recut on that.
Yeah.
Okay, ready?
Take that out.
All right.